On WGTV this morning, we're talking with Jimmie Edmundson. And Jimmie, you're with the Military Affairs Committee today.
Yes.
As you are every day.
Yes.
But this morning we want to specifically talk about something that could have a big effect on Wayne County. Let's talk about the controversy of the wind farms that are proposed for the, I think it's the Dare County area.
Yes. Actually, in Beaufort County near Pantego,
yeah. Yes.
There is a planned wind farm with about 49 wind turbines. Unfortunately, 38 of them have been plotted inside a low-level route that Seymour Johnson uses for training its pilots. These wind turbines, we've seen two numbers as far as the height. Both of them are a problem. One is 498 feet, the other is 505 feet. And the problem with that, these pilots train at 500 feet in that low-level route. So that is a big issue.
And now we're talking about the height of a 50-story building approximately.
Yes.
50 stories high.
Yeah, and 38 of them.
And 38 of them. Now, this is not an issue of the environment. This is not an issue of renewable energy. This is an issue of national security.
I see it as that. And I think anyone who is concerned about national security would see it as a threat to that. There's a lot of opposition to these wind farms. Wildlife and environmentalists are opposed to it for a lot of reasons. So to back up a little bit, the company is Invenergy. It's a Chicago-based company and have very strong political ties, raise a lot of money for politicians, have received, we've heard two numbers, read two numbers actually, where they have received either $128 million or $199 million in stimulus money for such projects. They did come to SEYMOUR and spoke with some people in early 2011, talked about this particular wind farm. They were told it was a bad idea. It would interfere with the training. They left. Everyone thought that it was over with. That was in February, March maybe of 2011. In September, they went to the North Carolina Utilities Commission and filed an application to get a permit for this wind farm, and the Utilities Commission issued it. Now, so there's a permit that's been issued. There are some other hurdles that they have to go through, but this thing was kind of far down the road when we learned about it in July. So we have been working it since that time. Now, the other disturbing piece of this is this company has other wind farms planned around the Dare Range. In fact, they have a huge farm planned for the Hells Lake area, which is north of Dare. And then they have a future plan for a farm that, where it's plotted right now, is in the middle of restricted military airspace. So, you know, you got to wonder what these people were thinking.
Well, I see a lot of positives. I see working toward a better environment. I see working toward the benefit of a commercial application. It's a business that is growing. At the same time, I think all that is negated simply by the fact that this is a threat to our national security.
Yeah.
This is where our folks from Seymour Johnson and other bases practice their flying.
All the military in North Carolina and Virginia would be impacted by these wind farms. The Navy, as you know, uses the north side of Dare Range. The New River Air Station does and can use this low-level route with the new Osprey. But and Dare County is a precious piece of real estate from a military perspective. You cannot duplicate Dare Range anywhere on the East Coast. And all F-15 pilots, regardless of what country they're from, they train at Dare County. They come to Seymour and they train at Dare County. So it is a very precious piece of land, and we can't afford to be giving up little pieces of it. What we have read, and you know, we've got mounds and mounds of paper on this thing that we've been collecting since July, is that this wind farm would probably add about $1 million a year to the economy of Beaufort County once it's completed, and create about 2.5 jobs.
2 to 2.5 jobs.
Yes, and you know what Seymour Johnson does for this community.
Yes, indeed.
Between 500 and 600 million a year, plus the job. So it is an issue that we have got to stay on top of. The good news is we got the governor to issue an executive order. Unfortunately, that executive order will not help us with the Pantego wind farm because it's already been permitted by the Utilities Commission. But going forward, all the state commissions and boards have to appoint a military liaison, and that person is responsible for bringing to that commission the concerns of the military, and they have to report these issues to the installation commander, and at that point the installation commander would contact their community leaders to let them know if it's an issue or not. So I think the executive order will help us going forward. Unfortunately, this Pantego farm is one that we're going to have to depend on our local, state, and probably our representatives in Washington to get this one fixed.
So how does a citizen of the Wayne County area, Wayne County community, get involved to get involved with this?
Write your local delegation, write your representatives in Congress, Senator Burr and Hagan, Congressman Jones, Butterfield, anyone that has an interest in North Carolina's military. Write them, call them, and ask them to oppose the renewal of the energy tax credits, because without those tax credits, these wind farms don't work. The legislature, North Carolina legislature in 2007 enacted legislation that's going to require utility companies to buy 12.5% of their electric energy from alternative sources by 2021, I think. However, wind energy is very expensive to produce and manufacture. So without the government subsidies, they can't get it down to a price that the utilities company can afford to buy it. So right now, no utility company has agreed to even buy this power because they haven't shown they can produce it at a cost that they can afford to buy it and resell it. So wind energy on the surface sounds like it might be a good idea, but I would encourage anyone to look into wind energy and to read all they can read about it, because it's not the great panacea that everyone that is trying to sell it is trying to get us to believe that it is.
So we need to fight this, and we need to write our representatives in Washington and in Raleigh and anybody else we can think of, and that's regardless of not just Wayne County representatives.
That's right.
We're talking about
That's
Eastern
right.
North Carolina, the Fort Bragg area, the Cherry Point area, the Marine Camp Lejeune, the Wilmington area. All of our representatives in these areas should be aware of what's going on here.
And not only
North Carolina.
The low-level route really impacts Seymour because they have to have that for training.
Yeah.
But all the other routes in the range, if it gets surrounded by all these wind turbines actually interfere with the radar on these planes. So it's a safety issue, it's a training issue, and it's just a bad idea.
Just a bad idea, but what happens, Jimmy, if those turbines go in, they're actually installed? What happens to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base?
Well, Seymour Johnson is the place that trains all F-15E pilots. Without that low-level route, they can't train them, period.
So the risk is of
you lose the training, the two training squadrons here, the whole training function here. And you know,
would that put the base at risk?
It could very easily put the base at risk.
We can't afford that.
Can't afford it.
And for several reasons.
Yep.
Monetarily and security-wise.
That's exactly right. And it's obvious that this company has no interest in national security issues, which is unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. Write your congressman, write your representatives, write anybody you can write. Write to Jimmie Edmundson.
That'll be okay,
That's
too.
okay. Our guest has been Jimmie Edmundson about the controversy surrounding the installation of potential installation of wind farms in eastern North Carolina, affecting our Seymour Johnson Air Force Base and other military bases in eastern North Carolina. Thank you, Jimmie.
Thank you.
I'm Wayne Alley for WGTV.